Most people think caviar comes from Russia, China, or Iran. But a secret lies hidden in the wild rivers of the American South, unknown even to chefs. What almost nobody knows is that the only legal wild caviar in the Western Hemisphere comes from a prehistoric fish swimming right here in Tennessee. This is the American paddlefish. It has survived 3 mass extinctions, and for 35 years, one family has been the guardians of its precious black gold. The hunt happens in the dead of winter. It is a brutal, cold, and lonely process that starts long before the world wakes up for breakfast. In a small factory in Paris, Tennessee, these eggs are transformed. Every single bead is handled with a precision that no machine could ever replicate. This is the art of the malosol, a secret ratio of salt passed down through generations that preserves the ancient flavor of the Tennessee River. Once sealed, this tin becomes one of the most expensive foods on earth. But before it leaves this room, it must face a strict federal inspection. Every container is tracked. This serial number is the only thing standing between a legal delicacy and a federal crime in the eyes of the law. Inside this freezer, millions of dollars worth of wild caviar wait for their journey to the elite dining rooms of Tokyo, Paris, and New York City. There is no neon sign, no marble floors, just a family-run operation in a quiet town that provides the world with its rarest natural luxury. This is the story of North American caviar, a journey from the dark river depths to the heights of culinary perfection. This is how it happens. The hunt begins at midnight. On the Tennessee River, fishermen face freezing temperatures and heavy mist to find the ancient paddlefish in the deep. These fish cannot be caught with a hook. They are filter feeders, swimming with their mouths wide open to catch microscopic plankton in the current. A single mature female can carry up to 8 pounds of eggs. To a fisherman, pulling this net is like finding a chest of silver. They must be careful. Only females with mature roe are harvested. The males and young females are released back into the river to ensure survival. Experienced hands can tell the quality of the caviar just by feel. They are looking for the right firmness before the fish even leaves the water. Temperature is the enemy. From the second the fish is caught, it must be kept on ice to preserve the delicate texture of the eggs. It is dangerous work. The river is unpredictable, and the gear is heavy. But for these families, this is a tradition that spans generations. By dawn, the catch is on the move. The clock is ticking. The eggs must reach the processing facility within 24 hours to be grade A. The arrival at the factory is the moment of truth. Every fish is weighed and inspected by the Linsman family before a single cut is made. Paperwork is just as important as the fish. Every harvest is documented to satisfy strict conservation laws that protect this prehistoric species from extinction. Inside the factory, the air is a constant 35 degrees. The workers wear layers of flannel and rubber to survive the long processing shifts. The tools are simple but surgical. A single mistake during the extraction can ruin a batch worth thousands of dollars. Precision is the only rule. For the fisherman, the day is done. He gets paid by the pound for the roe, a fraction of the final retail price for his labor. A good night on the river can earn a fisherman $300. But that same fish will generate thousands for the luxury market later. He will sleep for a few hours and return to the river tonight. As long as the season is open, the hunt never truly stops. Beneath this calm surface, the paddlefish continue to swim. They have outlived the dinosaurs, surviving through millions of years of change in these waters. Now, the focus shifts inside. The transition from wild animal to high-end delicacy is about to begin in the hands of the master processors. The cold is essential. In this room, time slows down, and every movement is calculated to protect the fragile eggs from the warmth of the air. The extraction is a delicate surgery. The processor must open the fish without nicking the egg sacs, known as skeins, which hold the valuable roe. The skeins are massive, often weighing several pounds each. They glisten under the lights, filled with thousands of perfectly formed, prehistoric eggs waiting for harvest. Technology cannot tell you if the eggs are ready. Only a human tongue can detect the subtle creaminess and pop that defines world-class wild caviar. Weight is the first measure of value. Every ounce represents years of growth in the river, and every pound is a win for the factory. These records are the backbone of the business. Each fish's yield is tracked meticulously to ensure the process remains efficient and fully transparent. Nothing is wasted. While the eggs are the prize, the meat is also harvested and sold, often ending up smoked in local Tennessee markets. Cleanliness is paramount. Any trace of blood or tissue can spoil the flavor of the caviar, so the skeins are rinsed repeatedly in pure, cold water. It is a race against the clock. The fresher the eggs, the better the final product. Every second they spend outside the fish matters. The skill required to separate the eggs from the membrane without breaking them takes decades to master. It is a touch-based craft, learned by doing. A good day sees hundreds of pounds of roe prepared. The uniformity of color and size across these trays determines the final grading of the batch. Strict hygiene protocols are followed. In this room, the standards are as high as any pharmaceutical lab, despite the rustic location of the factory. The extraction is over. Now, the transformation begins. The eggs are about to be separated, cleaned, and sorted in the most labor-intensive step. This is the sifting process. By hand-rubbing the skeins over a screen, the eggs are gently separated from the fatty tissue that holds them together. Machines would crush these delicate spheres. Only the variable pressure of a human palm can navigate the texture of the roe without causing damage. It is exhausting work, hours of repetitive motion in the cold. But this is the only way to ensure every egg remains perfectly intact and round. Once separated, the eggs are washed. Impurities like bits of skin or oil float to the surface and are skimmed away by hand with a ladle. They do this dozens of times. The water must be crystal clear before they can move to the next stage. Perfection is the only acceptable result. Now comes the grading. A technician sits under bright lights using surgical tweezers to pick out any egg that isn't the perfect shade or shape. A single off-colored egg can lower the grade of the entire tin. This level of detail is why wild caviar carries such a high price tag. The technician looks for clarity and size consistency. Grade A caviar must be uniform. Any variation is relegated to a lower, cheaper tier of product. The silence in this room is heavy. It takes hours of concentration to process just a few pounds of the highest grade wild paddlefish roe. Excess water must be removed completely. The eggs must be dry to the touch before they can properly absorb the salt in the curing stage. The clock never stops. Every phase of the process is timed to the minute to ensure the biological integrity of the roe is maintained. Notice the texture. The eggs have a firm, bouncy quality. This pop is the hallmark of fresh caviar that hasn't been over-processed by heat. The final call on grading is often made by the owner himself. His eyes have seen millions of pounds of roe over the last 30 years. This is what the world pays for. A natural product of the river, refined by human patience into a culinary masterpiece ready for the final step. The labor is invisible in the final tin, but every bead here represents the hard work of a team dedicated to preserving a dying craft. This is the most critical moment, the salt. At North American Caviar, they use the molosol method, which means little salt in Russian tradition. The ratio is a family secret. Too much salt kills the flavor. Too little, and the caviar will spoil. It is a balance measured in grams. He mixes them by hand. No spoons or spatulas are used, as his fingers can feel if an egg is about to break under the pressure. The salt draws out the moisture, creating a natural brine that cures the eggs. You can see them transform, becoming glossier and more vibrant. He doesn't follow a timer. He follows his senses. He knows by the smell and the way the eggs move when the cure is perfect. Packing is about removing oxygen. Any air trapped inside the tin will cause the caviar to oxidize and turn bitter. It must be packed tight. A vacuum seal is created. The lid is pressed down hard, ensuring that the freshness of the Tennessee River is locked inside for months. Tins are stored upside down. This ancient trick allows any remaining liquid to settle against the lid, keeping the top layer of eggs moist. In this deep freeze, the flavor matures. Like a fine wine, the salt and the natural oils of the fish meld together over several weeks. Kenneth Linsman perfected this formula in 1990. Today, his daughter Crystal and her family continue the legacy without changing a single step. This isn't just a business, it's a heritage. In a world of mass-produced food, this is one of the last bastions of true wild craft. Before shipping, every batch is verified. The USDA and CITES ensure that this caviar was harvested sustainably and legally from the wild. Destinations range from local high-end markets to international distributors. From Tennessee, these tins travel across the globe to the world's best chefs. The demand for wild caviar is higher than ever, yet the supply remains strictly limited by nature and the laws that protect the paddlefish. The family knows their role. They aren't just producers, they are part of a conservation cycle that keeps the river healthy and the species alive. As the sun sets over the Tennessee, the next generation of paddlefish continues to grow. The cycle of the wild remains unbroken. For the Linsmans, the work is never done. As long as the river flows and the prehistoric fish swim, they will be here to harvest. When you taste it at a Michelin star table, remember where it started. In the cold, dark waters of Tennessee, handled by hands that care. This is America's only wild caviar, a prehistoric legacy, a family's passion, and a taste of the wild that you can't find anywhere else.